Joining us now is booming in Washington, NEC Director Kevin Hassett, a guy who creates a lot of booms himself. First of all, Kevin, I'm sure you had a hand in the Detroit speech. It was optimistic. I mean, it was a real stem-wiser. America's heartland. I mean, come on. These numbers are, they're better than even you and I thought possible a couple of months ago. That's the thing. And I was glad to see him extolling this. You know what I mean? I love it when he goes optimistic on us. Isn't that the best? I mean, I just love that. Take it away, Kevin Hassett.
You know, I got to say that when we were briefing the president on the data ahead of this speech, that I have never seen him so exuberant because he could see that everything, like, look, we're talking 5% growth. Oh, my goodness, we've got inflation. Really, you're right to point out the 3-month moving average of core is probably the best thing to look at in terms of the momentum that's going forward. It's 1.6%. Goods inflation almost zero. Wages skyrocketing. Productivity skyrocketing. The trade deficit cut in half. I mean, it's just astonishing. The budget deficit down $600 billion from last year. So everything is working about as good as I've ever seen it work on the economy. And I think that President Trump was right to be crowing about it at the Detroit Club. But don't forget, he's going to be speaking at Davos next week too. And as we're starting to prepare how to think about what we should say to the world, the interesting thing is that President Trump has made us the shining city on the hill again. And what I mean is that all of this great growth that we're producing is actually great for other countries. And so we've been listening to other countries tell us all year, oh, you know, you're killing us with the tariffs and everything, but they all had record years. I mean, not as good as our year, but the point is that he's rebuilding the world order in a positive way, and it's being like equity markets around the world are skyrocketing, as are our equity markets, because Trump policies are working not just for us, not just for U.S. citizens, but for the world as a whole.
You'd think, you know, I remember years ago, and I worked for Reagan. Reagan went to G7 meetings in his first term, and everybody made fun of him. And then all of a sudden, the economy was growing literally at 10 or 12% from the Jimmy Carter recession. And they stopped making fun of him, and they said they instead got around to cutting taxes and deregulating business, all the stuff that Reagan was doing. Now, your point here is very interesting with Davos, not my favorite place, not my favorite crowd. Okay, I get that. But will they give him the respect that he deserves for producing, really, I know it's just year one. It's really just 9 months, for heaven's sake, quarters 2, 3, and 4. It's almost an economic miracle, and you know me, I think it's going to be 5, 6% next year, or this year that we're in now, 26. Will the Davos crowd give him the respect that his policies deserve?
President Trump's success demands that they do, but we're already seeing that they are. Like, literally something that you and I never would have thought happened in the last term, Larry, is that I've got finance ministers and, you know, just now in my office I had leaders from the European Union coming to our office and asking us for tips on, like, how are you guys doing it? And I think that President Trump has shown the world what smart economic policy could be and how big the benefits for ordinary people are when you have those smart policies.
So let's count the apples one more time, because, I mean, it's really important. You got your CPI apple coming down. The whole energy complex, it's a positive energy shock. I don't think it's played out completely, not nearly so. That permeates the economy. We got Faulkner coming up to talk about that later on. You got your productivity shock, which is so favorable. You're running 4%. You got your AI technology shock that you're always talking about. I threw in this unit labor cost. Old colleague of mine, Bob Cinch, reminded me of that. Unit labor costs are fantastic. Wages are going way up. Wages are beating inflation, right? But they're earning it by the productivity gains. So unit labor costs, which is the most, in some sense, most basic inflation measure, I think the last couple quarters, 1.1 or 1.2%, Kevin. That's pretty amazing. Then you got your tax cuts, and you're going to multiply the tax cuts with a new round of rebates and refunds coming up. You got your factories. You know, he's in Detroit talking about a boom in the heartland. I mean, really? Where's it missing? I mean, for heaven's sakes.
You know, I really can't think of anything right now that's going in a bad direction. And the bottom line is that the president always, always, always cared most about American workers. That's why he was on the floor at an auto plant reminding people that under Joe Biden, real wages dropped $3,000 for the typical worker because of Joe Biden's terrible inflationary policies. And they've already gone up this year by, with the data we just got, $1,300 after adjusting for inflation. And so back then, President Trump said, I got to give you $4,000 of a pay hike because of the tax cuts. Well, we're already well, on the way to going way past that in the second term. I think we really are looking at a 5% growth. And don't forget, the 5% growth of the fourth quarter is after about a negative 1.5% hit because of the government shutdown. And so the real number is more like 6.5%. And so this is really, really incredible economic growth because we've taken a lot of broken policies and we fix them. And it's kind of like you got a really sick patient, but you give it great antibiotics and he's out there running a marathon. And that's what we're seeing with the U.S. economy.
Nothing more powerful than President Donald Trump getting optimistic on the economy, which really is his favorite subject. I know he has other favorites, but there's nothing more powerful than that. And that's why I think today's speech was such an important stem winder. My good friend, NEC Director Kevin Hassett at the White House, thank you.